Welcome to Teaching Them. I have a great lesson for you today. It's called the center of God's will. And in this lesson, we're going to use a little bit of science to teach an important point about staying in the center of God's will and how that will help you get through some tough times. And we're going to do that with a little bit of water, a little bit of centrifugal force, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So in this video, first I'm going to take you through what the lesson would look like and kind of have a few editorial notes in there, but mostly I'm showing you the way that I would do it in front of the kids. But then if you want to stick around for the second half of the video, then I'll teach you about how I put the lesson together, how I get ready for it, some tips and tricks that I have for that. And then if you stick around even beyond that, there's a little outtake at the end. So thanks for coming to my channel, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I have my board, and I have my cup, and I have some water. And here's kind of how I would do the lesson with people. So I would say, you have God's will. Everybody give it a spin, just kind of see how easy that is. That works really well, but let's make it a little more difficult. Let's put some water in this cup, and let's say this cup is you, and that this is you, and you are going to be resting on this board. And so we're going to put you right here in the center of God's will. That's the best place to be. And the reason why it's the best place to be is because when you're obedient to God and you're staying in His will, you're going to have a lot more peace in your life, and you're going to be able to maybe accomplish the things that you want to accomplish because God will give you favor in those moments. But sometimes life is a little crazy. Sometimes life gets to rocking back and forth. Sometimes you feel a little uncertain. Even when you're in the center of God's will, it isn't always nice. Your stomach might be turning over. And then there are times in life, and hopefully these are few, but there are times in life when everything turns upside down and you feel like your life is spinning out of control. But as long as you stay in the center of God's will, ultimately things are going to be okay. Doesn't mean everything will go your way. Doesn't mean that everything will turn out the way that you want it to turn out. But you can trust that God will do good for it. In Romans 8:28, it says that God uses all things in your life for the good of those who love Him. So, there we go. We're safe in the center of God's will. Now, what do you think would happen if we were not quite in God's will? What if we're over here? You can see the board tips a little bit as we get over there. Maybe we're just doing a few things that we shouldn't be doing, but we're outside the center of God's will. That can have a dramatic impact on how well we're going to be able to go through those trials. So I like to give a scripture at the end, and this scripture is just to kind of nail home the point. And this one's from Isaiah 26:3. It says, God will keep in perfect peace all who trust in Him, all whose thoughts are fixed on Him. That's being in the center of God's will. You'll have peace even during the most tumultuous times, or you might say if you're dealing with kids, even when life is going crazy, you will have perfect peace, meaning in your soul, you'll just know things are going to be okay. If they don't look like it, everybody's worried, I'm worried, but I'm going to have peace because I'm trusting in Him and I'm staying in the center of His will. I'm doing what He tells me to do. I'm taking one step at a time. There's a rhyme time at the end of the lesson that I like to use, and this actually helps to reinforce the main teaching point. The center of God's will for me is the safest place that I can be. The center of God's will for me is the safest place that I can be. And you can go over that a couple times with them. And though with the visual of the object lesson and then the rhyme time, that's pretty sticky. It's going to stay with them for some time. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Again, if you want to download it, you can go to www.teachingthem.org and you can get the full lesson written out for you. I hope that you'll enjoy teaching this to the kids, and I hope it goes really well. Thanks. Hi there. Thanks for joining me today at Teaching Them. I am going to show you today how to do the Center of God's Will object lesson. Now, the Center of God's Will is a lesson that I wrote, and you can find it printed out from my website. It's at www.teachingthem.org.
But you may be able to figure out how to do it just from this video, and then you won't need to go and get that if you don't want to. So I'm going to show you basically the way that this works is we're going to do a little bit of a science experiment where we're going to put a cup of water in the center of this piece of cardboard here. And we're going to say the center, it represents God's will. And then we're going to put some strings on it and we're going to spin it around in the air. Always has a big wow factor, especially if you let kids do it. If you let kids then take it and spin it, then huge wow factor for them because it looks impossible that you can spin it in the air all the way to a whole 360. You can spin it around your head if you want to, or you can spin it this way, and the water will not spill out if you do it properly. And if the cup is at the center, what we're going to call the center of God's will, then it will be kept in perfect peace, you could say. And so we're going to show them how to do that. So it's a really good object lesson. And then you can also play around and have them do it at the sides and see what happens. If you try to spin it with the cup not being near the center, then it will actually spill. And so that can be fun as well. So I wanted to show you at this point how to actually set up the board. So we have several supplies here. We've got the board itself. I have just a 3x5 note card that I'm going to place here in the center. I have some twine or strings that, almost any kind of rope or string will do. I have a little bit of tape to tape down the card. I have some scissors. Those are going to be important. And I have a marker. And then you need the water and the cup in order to be able to do this well. So here's how it works. First thing I like to do is, and you can do this with the kids, so you can allow them to create their own boards if you want to. Oftentimes I'm working with younger kids, and with younger kids, it's less likely that they're going to be able to do it. It might take quite a bit of time. So instead of doing that, I will often prepare the board ahead of time because there's really plenty of wow factor in the object lesson already. But if you need, more time, if you want to do something that takes a little bit more time and has a craft to it, then you can definitely help them make these on their own. So first thing I do is I take the card and I write God's will. All right, God's will there on the center. And then I'm going to put it in the center of the board. Doesn't have to be precise. You don't have to measure, but I do want to tape it down. So I'm going to tape it down a couple different ways to make sure. It will probably get wet. That's okay. You're not intending this to be kept forever. Right. Nice. Okay, so there we go. We got the God's will. Next thing, I'm done with the tape. Next thing that I need to do, I'm also done with the marker, is I need to punch holes in the four corners of this cardboard. Now, you'll notice that my cardboard is rectangular shaped, and that's only because that's what I had available. Square shape works as well, or even if you have other sizes, it doesn't really matter. But what I'm going to do with the scissors is I'm going to poke a hole, and I'm going to poke the hole maybe about an inch, maybe an inch and a half in from the corner. And that is where my twine is going to go through. So this is another reason why if you're teaching this to small kids, you might want to do this ahead of time. You could let them build the rest of it if you want, but working with the scissors might be a little dangerous, especially the way I do it, huh? All right, there we go. One more. Okay, so now I have four holes. They're at the corners. Don't know if those show up on the video, but next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to cut some twine. I think 2.5 feet, or that'd be 30 inches, is a pretty good amount. 2.5 feet, and then double it. So I'm just going to swag it. I don't think I need to be precise, but I'm going to say just about that much. How far is that? That's about from the tip of my arm to the center of my chest. It might be a good way to measure it. So I'm going to cut it there. I think that's going to be, it does not have to be precise, but then I'm going to want to do that one more time so that I have two sets. So I'm gonna use the first one to help me measure the second. All right, there's the halfway point, and then great. So I'm gonna cut that there, and then I should be done with the twine unless I made a mistake, in which case I'm not done with the twine. All right, so in the twine, you'll wanna create a knot, so a knotty knot, however you wanna do it. If you know special knots, go for it. I don't know special knots. So what I'm gonna do is just create something that's big, because what you want it to do is to hold on the bottom side of the board. You want it to be such a big knot that it can't be pulled through the hole. You're not gonna put a whole lot of stress on it. The cup is not very heavy, even with the water in it. So you don't have to worry too much about it coming through, but it's possible. So I'm gonna pick a hole and I'm going to thread it through the bottom. And a good trick, if you need it, is to use your scissors to poke the twine through. And then I'm gonna pull it all the way through and see. Yeah, I think my knot's big enough. Okay, now, next thing I wanna do is probably go cat a corner. So go to the diagonal of the other hole, and I'm gonna wanna put that the twine through there. And then I'm gonna wanna knot it on the bottom side. So doing that right now. Again, I want the knot to be big enough that it won't pull through. Perfect. All right, so now what I've got is one handle, but we want the board to be stable, so we're gonna do another handle. And first thing I'm gonna do is put a knot in it. All right, that's a big one. Now I'm going to go through the bottom side. Perfect. Knot seems big enough. Then I'm gonna come through the top side on this one. Then I'm gonna knot on the bottom side. All right, so what I should have here is two handles. And when I work with kids, like you could leave it just like that, that'd be fine. But when I work with kids, just to keep these from getting all messed up, I just knot them together at the top. Just once is fine. You don't have to do a lot. Really, that just helps you to make sure. Here's one thing you do want to make sure of, is that the board actually hangs flat. You can see my board is maybe tilting a little bit. And I think that's because I didn't tie this well. I should have paid attention to that. You want the board to lay flat because you want the water not to tip when you put it on there. So I'm gonna do it again. Laying flat on the table. All right. Hey, that's pretty good. Okay. I like to have several cups on hand because these cups, pretty much any kind of plastic cup, has the potential to break when it goes flying off and it's filled with water. They crack a lot. So have a handful of cups available, especially if you have quite a few people going through the lesson. And then what I'll do is I'll pour the water in. And then you don't have to fill it all the way. You can do it 3/4 of the way, all the way, it doesn't matter. And then you want to be careful as you're picking it up.
So put it in the center of God's will so that you have the best opportunity to go through life's topsy-turvy, spinning out of control ways. You can even get crazy with it if you want to. Kids usually like this. And sometimes it just goes wrong. So just laugh about it, keep going.